Welcome everyone to the Space City X-Files podcast. Yeah, that's right. Hey, who did that? Anyways, that's the way we're starting out today. We're gonna start out just like that, all right? And anyways, guys, I just wanted to welcome you back, of course, to the Space City X-Files, the podcast that explores the mysteries of the universe. And today we're going to have some more strange and unexplained for y'all. In episode 17, we'll delve into the fascinating incident that occurred in 1966 in Melbourne, Australia. On this day, a group of students and staff from a local high school witnessed a strange object in the sky. The object was described as silver, shiny, and disc-shaped, and it was hovering over the school grounds. The incident was witnessed by a large number of people, including students, teachers, and residents in the area. But despite extensive investigation and speculation, the nature and origin of the object remain a mystery to this day, and that makes it a perfect topic for our show. So stay tuned as we uncover the story of this intriguing incident on the Space City X-Files. And this case is the Westall High UFO incident. Okay, so before we get started, allow me a few minutes to get the disclaimers out of the way. Space City X-Files appreciates all the support you give week in and week out. And what we've been able to accomplish so far could not have been done without you. If you would like to know how you could become a supporter of the show, there are three main ways to do that. And I'll give you the details now. The first way, if you would like to support by becoming a member, you can go to our website and click on the Patreon tab, and once there, it gives you the option to sign up for a $5 or $10 a month membership. And with that, you're going to get unreleased full episodes, access to our private Discord group, and free merchandise that will drop on you randomly. Secondly, if you're not quite ready for a monthly membership, that's okay, completely understand. But if you would just like to make a one-time donation on our website, there's a support with a tip tab. And when you click on that, it's going to let you type in whatever amount you want, okay? 50 cents, $1, $5, whatever. It's all appreciated the same. And because we're dedicated to elevating the quality of our program, all proceeds will always go back into the show to benefit the final product. The last and most effective way to support the show is to leave us a review after you listen, wherever you listen. I can't say how important this is, because with your feedback, we can improve our show and bring in new listeners, which is priceless. One last plug, our show store is also available on the website, and it's stocked with hoodies, tees, and stickers, and that helps support the show also. That concludes the announcements. All right, so allow me to provide you with a brief overview of today's episode. That way you know exactly what you're in store for. And so first, as always, what we're going to do is take a look at the area around Westall High School and just briefly familiarize ourselves with its history and anything that may be helpful in the investigation to this case. And once we've thoroughly accomplished this, then we can move into the case details. And in this segment, we'll be deep diving into what happened, what was reported in the media about the UFO. We'll look into the witnesses and hear what they relate about the incident. And we'll also look into the investigation of the authorities and familiarize ourselves with their reports. Now, here what we'll be doing is looking at the possibility of any issues that may have happened during their investigation. Meaning, like, was anything overlooked, or did anything strange happen or show up? And finally, wrapping up the show, we'll finish strong with theories and speculations on what this UFO sighting could have been. And in conclusion, we'll share, of course, what we think about the subject matter. All right? So, that's what's going to happen today. And I think we're ready to get started. So, this particular incident is pretty much contained to the Westall High School area. And so that's where we're going to be aiming our focus, okay? To do that, we have to go to Oz. And I'm not talking about the same place Dorothy went when she passed out drunk under a tree. No, I'm talking about the line down under. I'm talking about Australia, mate. Specifically, a place called Clayton South, which is only about 13 miles or so away from Melbourne. Okay. Now, in the 60s, Clayton South was just an up and coming a little town, but it was on the uptrend, mostly because it offered, super affordable suburban housing, and it was in a really good location. So it was close to other major cities, which meant short commutes for work, and it was just a stone's throw away from the coastline. So that meant you could be hitting the beach up all the time, and so yeah, it was a prime location. And this is the area where the Westall High School, which is now called the Westall Secondary College, if you go looking for it. But this is where it's been for the last 58 years. And so when this UFO sighting went down, the Westall High School was like pretty much brand new. I mean, it had only been open for a year. All right. So it was growing along with the community. And because of how new everything was regarding its history, it really hadn't made any yet. Okay. And I put emphasis on the yet. This particular area. And so this made my job really easy in this category. And so what I had to do was I had to take a step back and look at things on a grander scale. And then the thought popped in my head, well, okay, so if this doesn't have enough history yet, then what about the history of UFO sightings in the area leading up to that point? Okay. So that's what I started looking into, and the results were pretty shocking. It turns out that Australia is a UFO magnet, apparently. After doing some research, I found that compared to the rest of the world, Australia has the third most UFO sightings in the world, and that's only behind the U.S. and Canada. And when I found that out, when I found out that Australia actually stopped investigating UFOs back in 2000, that kind of it really made me scratch my head. I mean, it's like you got so much going on, why stop investigating? We'll get into this more later on in theories, of course. Now because of time, I can't really go into depth onto all of these. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you just brief notes here. All right, I'm gonna give you the abbreviated version of these accounts. So, according to a document from the Australian government that has been declassified and was just recently made available to the public, the earliest documented case would have been way back in the 1800s. All right, and fast forward to the 60s, there would have been at least 57 cases that have been documented. And it's worth it to note that they did skip over a bunch of them. There was many cases that were not looked into at all. And on this document, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, I think it's page 17 or 18, you'll see a list of cases that the author is requesting time to go and investigate. And it's got to be at least another 30 or 40 cases, just estimating that. And so... And also, getting back to the topic, many of the cases that were investigated, they all had some pretty interesting evidence. And it was very common for this evidence to just disappear or accidentally get destroyed. And that's all here noted in this document. And, of course, it's going to be in the show notes. And I really recommend you check it out because this thing is damn interesting, all right? The most prominent case before the Westall sighting, just to name a few, would be incidents like something called the Drury Film Affair. And this refers to an incident during 1953 in Australia when Mr. T. Drury, deputy director of DCA in Papua, took a movie film of a daylight object which exited a cloud at high speed. It was climbing at about 45 degrees, and then it disappeared. The film was examined by the RAAF and the USAF. These are the Royal Air Forces and the United States Air Force. However, it appears the film itself subsequently disappeared. The affair has now been one mainstay of the claim made by civilian researchers that there is an official cover-up. Another account would be the Bougainville Reef event that involved the alleged photographing of a UFO by a pilot of a DC-6 aircraft. It has been alleged that evidence about the case, including the film, has been confiscated by DCA officials and subsequently covered up. You see a pattern here? The classified papers examined consisted largely of internal communications between the Queensland Regional Director of DCA and the Director General of DCA, which appears to confirm a lack of knowledge about the event, at least on the level of directors of DCA. Here's another account, and this one was interesting because it talks about the UFO entering the water and then approaching. And it reads, quoted, in this case, a light source approached a ship off Groot Island on January 23rd, 1964. It came within 6 feet of the ship, underwater, and was described as a ghostly white light. In the center was a shadow which rotated in a clockwise direction, causing the light to pulsate. The ship, a barge, was approached by the light at high speed. In a total, 6 patches of light were observed, varying in size from a mile across down to quite small. All were the same color and all pulsated at 12 pulsations for 9 seconds, then irregular, then back to 12 for 9 seconds again. The compass swung out of control, but became even worse when the light approached. And, these are just a few. It's pretty much all we can mention right now because there's just too many. For time purposes, we can't do them all. But, just based off of this right here, I think, what did I tell you? That Australia was like popping with UFO activity long before Westall. I think what it is that this case right here just happened to grab the heavier media attention. And without a doubt, the amount of people who witnessed this all at the same time definitely contributed to the media attention. And we'll talk about how many people seen it later. But let me continue. All right, so I think we set the table long enough. So let's pivot to the Westall incident case file now. And so what we're going to do is we'll look over the details of the incident first. We're going to find out exactly what happened. So, on April 6th, 1966, students and teachers from Westall High School and Westall State School in Melbourne, Australia, reported seeing a silver dish-shaped object flying low over the school grounds at around 11 a.m. The object eventually landed in a nearby field where it remained for several minutes before taking off again and disappearing. Witnesses described the object as shiny or metallic in appearance, and some reported that it appeared to be descending or losing altitude before it landed in the field. After the object landed, witnesses reported seeing several individuals, possibly military personnel, approaching the area. Now, some witnesses reported being interviewed by authorities, and some say that their film or photographic evidence was confiscated that very day. Witnesses also reported seeing several smaller objects in the sky at the same time as the larger object, kind of following it. Despite the large number of witnesses and extensive media attention that the incident received, no official explanation or acknowledgement of the UFO sighting was ever given by the Australian government or military. Witnesses reported being intimidated and harassed by authorities, and many were told to keep quiet about what they saw. The incident has since gained a significant amount of attention from UFO researchers and enthusiasts who have attempted to uncover more information about the UFO and its aftermath. The Westall UFO incident is widely considered to be one of the most credible and well-documented UFO sightings in history. I mean, of course, behind Roswell and Rendlesham, but this is right up there with it, And so, what was the response of the media? Let's find out. So, after the sightings were reported, the media really grabbed hold of the case, more so than others up until that time, for sure. Papers like The Age, the Herald Sun, and the Dandenong Journal really got behind the event, lining up interviews and reporting the case files. The Age paper took it one step further and published an editorial piece that gained a lot of attention, naming it the Westall Flying Saucer Mystery. In this editorial, they really went in depth with the details and the potential significance of the whole ordeal. And this definitely caused people who didn't know much about UFOs at the time to see them in a whole new light. But as fast as the reporting agencies caught UFO fever, so did they grow cold on reporting it after about a week or so. And then many actually kind of did an about face, and they started becoming highly skeptical of the witnesses, and many of them began suggesting it was just a grand hoax, or they invented something called mass hysteria. Now, I'm not sure if that term was invented then, but this is when it became known to that area, at least. So they were like, nah, y'all just went crazy. One person seen something, and then they're so excited about it that everybody starts kind of seeing it too. And that's what mass hysteria pretty much is. It's like if I ran outside and I was like, oh shit, look, an alien in the sky, look, and like there's a bunch of people and they see how excited I am, and they're like, what, where's it at? And then, oh yeah, it is an alien, isn't it? And then so on and so on and so on. That's what they claim. And that really kind of ticked the witnesses off, but we'll get into that here shortly. Eventually, what they would do is they would let the case completely die out from the mainstream media, which is kind of odd for something that was experienced by so many people. And this brings us to the witnesses and their reports. So, what did they have to say about the UFO? And so, it's difficult to say exactly how many people seen the craft that day, but it's estimated that an astonishing 200 to 600 people made an eyewitness that day. And that can be significantly more if we were able to account for the ones who decided to stay silent out of fear. Now, just like we said earlier, you got to remember that a lot of people were kind of, the government was really trying to nip it in the bud, we're going to start telling people right away to stay quiet or, kind of silence it before the wildfire starts spreading, And so because of that, it's said in this case that a lot of people just never said anything at all. They were too scared. There was some reports that people actually moved out of the area, never to be heard or seen from again. It's kind of strange, but I tell you what, though, to name a few people who did step forward, let's go ahead and do that. And so the first one that we have is a science teacher who was there the day of the incident, a man named Andrew Greenwood. And Mr. Greenwood has really been the most prominent of the witnesses, giving many interviews and statements over what went down that day in April of '66. So according to Greenwood, he was supervising a group of students on the school grounds when he saw a silvery, saucer-shaped object descending from the sky. He described the object as being about the size of a small car and said it landed in a nearby field. Okay, so Greenwood and several of the students ran towards the object, but they were stopped by two men in black suits who arrived in a car and told them to leave the area. Now, Greenwood said that he felt intimidated by the men and that they may have been government officials. All right, he wasn't sure. Later in interviews, Greenwood said he was kind of like pissed off with the lack of official investigation into the incident, and but really about the overall dismissive attitude of some in the authority towards the witnesses' accounts. And I would be too, you know. I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from in the world today, especially when it's things of this magnitude. It's the lack of transparency, for one, that made the people start the whole Storm Area 51 deal not too long ago, if you recall that. And here's the deal. I mean, just because it's a UFO, you can't instantly make the connection of little green men. I mean, that's understandable, right? And the thing is though, nobody in this case ever did. Nobody ever said that's what it was. But when you don't know what something is, and it's making maneuvers like this that are beyond the capabilities of anything that any of us know, then it should be a no-brainer to put attention to this, right? Or it should spark at least some kind of reaction from those put in charge to protect us, i.e. local authorities and the government. And that just didn't happen in the Westall UFO incident, as we mentioned in the preset. The government nor the military ever gave an explanation at all on what the thing was. And it's funny because after these like spy balloons that we had recently, research in this case, it kind of struck a familiar chord with me. I mean, in the case of the spy balloons, they shoot the first balloon down and they make an announcement. So they were being open about it then. They detail their plan of what they're going to do. And then another one comes. And another. And then another. And then all of a sudden, it's the government not saying much anymore. All of a sudden, it's just the media outlets that are telling us what's going on, where it crashed or where it fell or where it was seen. And then it was the government, pulling a Homer Simpson, like backing into the trees, And then eventually they just end up saying, well, we couldn't recover it, so we're just going to move on. And not a word since, that I know of at least. Anyways, moving on. Another notable witness would be a pilot who initially came forward and said that he was flying overhead when the incident happened. And so Captain Bill Startup stated he was piloting a small craft when he noticed a group of students and teachers gathered down below on the ground. Not too out of ordinary, but he sees they're all looking at the sky, and he sees them pointing, and he notices how excited they are. So he's like, what the fuck is going on? And so Captain Startup starts looking around, and he's wondering, am I going to run into something, or what are they pointing at? So he kind of makes like a little small circle. It kind of circles around. And that's when he notices a silver dish-shaped object about the size of a small car hovering in the air by the field next to the schoolhouse. And then so he passes it up again, and Startup then makes another round to come back and get a better look. And when he comes back this time, that's when he sees several other silver objects hovering silently around the bigger one. And so now he describes their movements as smooth and quick, obviously under intelligent control, which to him kind of puts to rest the idea that it could have been a balloon just blowing around. He also states that the objects were performing maneuvers that would be impossible for a conventional aircraft to make. They would not be able to copy those stops and sudden sharp turns. Startup claims to this day that at Westall High that day in April of '66, they all witnessed a true unexplainable phenomenon. Now, as we stated, there were over 200 witnesses of this incident, but these were the most notable ones. And of course, I'm going to put a link in the show notes for you so you can see the accounts firsthand. And just to name another few, Barbara Robbins is another notable witness whose story kind of corroborated her teacher Andrew Greenwood's account. She was one of the students with him who went outside. Terry Peck is another student whose account matches the other one. He was outside with Greenwood and Robbins that day, and they all describe it the same. What they saw. That's important to know. The last interesting thing about the reports from witnesses, and this was by many witnesses, not just one. So I don't have a name for you, but when the supposed UFO landed in the field, it did so hard enough to cause an indentation and kind of blow up a bunch of dust everywhere. And so in an account from Kevin Hurley, he says the aircraft had just landed in the field when he was driving by, so he pulled over and he got out of his truck and to check it out. And as soon as he was across the street and got to the shoulder of the road, it shot up in the sky in a blink and just completely disappeared. Kevin, along with others, seen the marks that day, but the men in black suits who ran everyone off quickly took control of the area, so no one was really able to get a good look at the indentions that day. The next day, however, many of the townsfolk figured they would go back and take another look. Maybe it was all clear by then. But when they arrive, there's a big fence up now, all of a sudden, and it's keeping everyone a pretty good distance away from the landing site. Some people reported men in hazmat suits using like Geiger counters in the days following. But, this claim, I don't have a name, right? So it can't be fully supported by evidence or narrowed down to a single person statement. But there was many people who made that connection. What can be supported, though, is that a few weeks later, the entire field was burned along with what I suppose to be any evidence that may have been there. And the owner of the field said it was to keep people out of his field. This is quoted. The owner said to keep people out of his field since it turned into a bit of an attraction afterwards. So these are some of the accounts of the witnesses of the UFO, and there's a crap ton, like I mentioned. So if you're interested in the case, you won't have to look far to find them. So now we heard the case details so far, and we've heard the media response. We just heard from some witnesses also. And now let's look into the action of the local authorities involved. What did they do about this incident? The actions of the authorities in response to the Westall UFO incident has been a subject of controversy and debate over the years, to put it lightly. According to some eyewitnesses and reports, the Australian government and military took an active role in investigating the incident and suppressing information about it from the time it started. In the days following the incident, there were reports of military personnel and vehicles all in the area who were said to be conducting investigations and collecting evidence related to the case. Some witnesses also report being visited by government officials at their homes, who warned them not to speak publicly about what they had seen. There are also reports that the government and military attempted to downplay the incident and discredit the witnesses, suggesting that they had simply seen a weather balloon or something else. And I think they're the ones that initiated the mass hysteria theory also. And for all we know, they could have been the ones that kind of killed the story with the media. So, many witnesses have claimed that they were intimidated or threatened in order to prevent them from speaking out publicly. One person who came forward about the government's intimidation tactics was, of course, Andrew Greenwood, the science teacher who first approached the landed craft. Greenwood stated he was visited by two men in black suits who warned him not to speak publicly about what he had seen. According to some reports, the men identified themselves as being from the Australian Security Intelligence Organization, the ASIO. Others, though, said it was more likely the men in black. Whatever the case, the government claims they were never involved with any intimidation of citizens. They said, no, we don't do that. We don't get down that way. Continuing, Greenwood reported that the men told him that he would lose his job if he spoke publicly about the incident. And they also said that basically telling them, we know you were drinking that day. So if you don't shut up, we're going to tell everybody that you were. That was one thing that he said in his interview, and it kind of blew him away. And they said that also that he would be in trouble if he even tried to investigate it further. All right, so never mind getting fired. Like if you even keep snooping around, you're gonna be in trouble. Now, who knows what that trouble was, or who knows what that trouble would be? But I don't think he kind of fell into the background a little bit like the other ones. Greenwood's account of being intimidated by the government officials has been supported by the other witnesses to the Westall incident, and they have also reported similar experiences. However, the identity and motivations of the men who visited him remain a topic of debate and speculation. It's worth it to note that two former Westall students, Joy Clark and Tanya, Kevin Hurley, the guy who witnessed the indentions in the field, and Shane Ryan, who reported the military personnel working in the field with the hazmat suits and Geiger counters. These folks were all visited and instructed to stay quiet about what they seen and to investigate no further. And to me, there's a big difference between trying to silence or intimidate one person who witnessed something and then trying that against multiple people who saw the same thing. I mean, they may be quiet at first, but, there's kind of solace and strength in numbers, and eventually it's going to get out what was said to people. And I think that's what happened in this case. And just to speculate about something. I mean, let's say all these people who came forward initially, let's say they didn't pipe down. Let's say they did keep talking about it and they disobeyed the direction of whoever it was that visited them. I mean, what's going to happen really? I mean, are they going to kill these people for it? Are you going to ruin their lives somehow just for simply telling the truth about what they've seen? I don't know. I mean, I guess crazier things have happened. But anyways, I think we can now transition into the last and final segment. And now we'll cover what the main theories are associated with the Westall High UFO incident. After that, we'll let you know our opinion on this matter, and then that's it. We can send you on your way after that. Of course, we hope you leave here entertained and enlightened about this mysterious event. And so, without further delay, what are the main theories? And the truth is, there are several mainstream theories regarding the Westall UFO incident. But these are some of the most widely discussed. So, number one would be a military aircraft. So, some people believe that the strange object seen flying over Westall in 1966 was actually a military craft that had been tested or possibly flown off course. I guess, I don't know. I guess this could explain the other crafts trailing it. I mean, maybe they were trying to get it back on course or wrangle it in. I don't know. However, the Australian military has consistently denied any involvement in the incident. Big surprise, right? All right, number two, we have an experimental aircraft. Another theory is that the object was a prototype or experimental craft of some sort that had been developed by the government agency or a private company. However, no evidence has ever been presented to support this theory. So, we're still in the dark. And then we have number three, everyone's favorite go-to option. We have a weather balloon. Some skeptics have suggested that the object was actually a weather balloon, which was commonly used at the time for research purposes. Again, however, there's no evidence to support this theory. and witnesses reported that the object was much larger and more advanced than any weather balloon they had ever seen. So there's that. And fourth, and my personal favorite, we have extraterrestrial spacecraft. Many people believe that the object seen over Westall was a spacecraft of extraterrestrial origin. Now, witnesses described the object as being unlike any known aircraft, and some reported seeing strange beings near the object when it landed that were tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. Also, according to some, this was a peak time of UFO sightings in Australia, and it was possibly due to the nuclear threat, due to the tensions from the Cold War around that time. And this wouldn't be the first time that connection was made, And so, so there you have it, peeps. These are the main theories surrounding the case. And now, without further delay, I'll let you know which one I'm going to run with. And it's important to say that none of these theories can be proven definitively, all right? So it's really a choice of what you want to believe here. That being said, I'm going to roll with number 4. Why? Because I'm like Mulder and I want to believe. I'm kidding, kind of. No, I just believe that the size of our universe and the vastness of space, there are an infinite number of stars, far more than what we could name or number, who have planets that could contain life. And these systems have been around long before we have. All right. And so because of that, it's just hard to think that we're the only planet that ended up with people on it. Now, whether you believe in creation or evolution, it's hard to believe that whatever caused this to be could only happen in this one location, being Earth. Out of all the others, Me personally, I just feel like that's too big of a coincidence. Anyways, that's what I think. I want to thank you all for tuning in to our discussion of the Westall UFO incident. This remarkable event has fascinated people for decades, and we hope our exploration of the topic has shed some light on this mysterious event for you. As always, we welcome your thoughts and comments. That means so much to us, and it's just so much more fun to discuss these things and hear other points of view. I really appreciate it when you all share. So feel free to reach out to us on social media, via email, or like always, the discussions will continue on Reddit. So, hit us up there if you like. The link will be in the show notes for that. Anyways, this is Rick with the Space City X-Files, and I hope to see you on the next one. Until then, keep exploring.